Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the February 20th, 2024 meeting of the Las Virgenes-Malibu Council of Governments Governing Board. Will the Executive Director please call the roll?
Nico Gold. I know she's, Nico, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Can you
Okay.
hear me? Yes, I hear.
Yes. Okay. Paul Grisanti,
I'm here.
Kelly Honig,
Here.
Penny Sylvester,
Here.
President Weintraub,
Here.
everyone in attendance. We have a quorum.
Great. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Penny Sylvester seconds.
Will the Executive Director please call the roll?
Nico Gold,
Aye.
Paul Grisanti,
Yes,
Kelly Honig,
Yes.
Penny Sylvester,
Yes.
President Weintraub,
Yes.
approved unanimously.
Are there any members of the public who would like to address the governing board? Terry, have you received any public comment electronically?
I have not.
Okay, since we have no public comment, we will move on to agenda item number 4, which is our consent calendar. Consent calendar items will be approved in one motion unless removed for separate discussion or action. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent calendar? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Penny
Like-
Sylvester so moves.
so I'll second.
Great. Penny and Paul, will the Executive Director call the roll?
Nico Gold,
Yes.
Paul Grisanti,
Yes,
Kelly Honig,
Yes.
Penny Sylvester,
Yes.
President Weintraub.
Yes.
Motion
Now we're
carries unanimously.
great. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to information items. The first item is Tax Protection and Government Accountability Act. Will the Executive Director please present the report? You can find the report and fact sheet on pages 9 to 13.
Yes. So the initiative is called the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. And that's a nice way of saying that the measure is going to be requiring citizens to vote on just about any measure or any tax increase or fee increase that the cities annually do. So let me just kind of give you a little background. The proposed constitutional initiative is sponsored by the California Business Roundtable. And as you might recall, a couple of years ago, we had a member, a representative from the Business Roundtable that was going to speak at a COG meeting, but it ran too long. And then subsequently, they never put the measure on the ballot that year. But the measure, according to Cal Cities, who's obviously done a lot of work, and I appreciate Jeff's help in providing some of the background material for me. It puts billions of dollars of local government tax and fee revenue at risk statewide with related core public service impacts. The measure could have significant negative impacts on city operations and core service delivery. The major provisions, except for licensing and other regulatory fees, fee and charges may not exceed the actual cost of providing the product or service for which the fee is charged, and the actual cost is the minimum amount necessary. The burden to prove the fee or the charge does not exceed the actual charge, has to be clear and convincing. It requires fees and charges paid for the use of local and state government property, and the amount paid to purchase or rent property to be reasonable. These fees are currently charged allow to be market-based, and whether the amount is reasonable must be proved by a clear and convincing evidence. The standard may significantly reduce the amount large companies and others pay for the use of local public property. And it goes on and on with taxes and fees adopted that do not comply would be void unless reenacted. It invalidates many provisions that have been approved recently. And the California Business Roundtable qualified the initiative for the November ballot. The League of Cities, along with a broad coalition of local government, labor, public safety leaders, infrastructure advocates, and businesses strongly oppose the initiative. I know that the city managers heard a lot about this at the recent city managers conference, and with the impact that it could have on virtually every city and special district, it really deserves our careful attention. So my recommendation is that the governing board members take a look at the fact sheet that's also included with my governing board agenda report, and then schedule it for a future meeting, and also encourage all of our cities to take a look at it and hopefully take action so the COG can at some point in the near future. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Terry. Are there any questions?
Can we hear from Jeff on this one too, please? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know I have scheduled, or at least your councils have scheduled this to be taken up in many of the different cities. I know I'm planning to attend all of those where I can. You know, we've been looking at this for a long time. This started as an initiative that they originally wanted to put on the ballot in 2022. They couldn't gather the signatures fast enough, so it ended up kicking over to this election. But this would really constrain cities and the state's financial authority. The governor has actually asked the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, to take a look at this, arguing that this is a constitutional revision, not a constitutional amendment. So they are planning to take that up, hopefully sometime in the next couple of months. They have to make a ruling on that prior to about mid-June in order to leave it on the ballot or pull it off the ballot. You know, this really would take a lot of effort and open cities up to a lot of extra lawsuits. Things as simple as your fee schedule would need to probably go before voters and be approved. It would really constrain your ability to make your own financial decisions and open you way up to lawsuits. It gives the authority for anyone to sue if they don't feel that the fees you're charging are reasonable and the minimum amount necessary. Did someone have a question? No.
Anika?
So
Aniko raised her hand.
I just have a comment.
please.
I just wanted to say that we have this on our.
Can't hear Aniko.
We have this in our council agenda on March 11th to close. So we are.
Anika?
Yeah.
It's hard to hear you.
Your sound is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's something with. How about now? Something
Better.
wrong.
Better.
Oh, sorry. I'm at 100%. So we have this on our March 11th council agenda to oppose.
Yes, and I do plan to be there, just to help with any questions if you have any. And I just haven't been to the council in a while, so it'd be good to see you all in person.
Thank you, Jeff.
I have a question. What other councils are bringing this forward?
Quite a lot. I think we're up to 190 statewide, but really we're trying to push this as quickly as we can, as early as we can. The first step really in any good campaign where you're going to be outspent is to make sure you gather your troops. That's our membership, the city governments, so that we can then educate all of you on the dangers of this and then help you also speak to the community about it and spread the word about the dangers that this would really pose to your city and the services in your city. So that's really what we're doing right now. But I know I have it scheduled on at least 3 or 4 of my cities in the next month and a half out of my 25 cities. So we really are ramping this up now in the new year.
Great. Is there interest from the governing? Oh, Paul has a question.
Jeff, are you advocating that we should oppose this?
Absolutely.
Okay, good, thank you. And Terry mentioned the city managers had a large discussion of this recently. Do any of the, can we get any of them to give us some feedback on their conclusions?
Hello?
Good morning, everybody. This is Rob DeGhost, Westlake Village. Yeah, I was at the City Managers Conference just a couple of weeks ago. This certainly was a big theme at the conference, really concerned across the state that this is going to take away, financial authority from cities. What's sort of guised as a reasonable sort of measure is actually something that's going to really hamper financial authority for communities and cities. So, yeah, it was a strong message to go back and talk with elected officials to see if there was opposition. So I was convinced that, this is not a good thing for cities.
And I would just like to add, I appreciate that this is coming to us and that we're going to take it back to our cities for discussion. So thank you.
And that was my next question. Is there support from the governing board and the city managers to bring it back to the individual cities and then come back to the COG at a future meeting so that we can take action?
Yes.
Okay. See.
And really quick, I would just like to add, send us letters.
Mhm.
Send us as many letters as possible.
Okay.
This is Nancy from Jackie's office.
Thanks, Nancy. We will do that for sure. Okay, so that'll be the follow-up on this item. Everyone will go to their individual cities, and then we will put this on a future COG agenda item.
I'm happy
Soon though,
to
soon
come out
though.
and help do the roadshow and talk about this if you have questions for the council.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions, Kelly?
Just a comment soon. I mean, because, it's going on the ballot. So that's soon.
As soon as you schedule it, I'll be out.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to the executive director's report, which can be found on pages 14 to 15. I'll turn to Terry.
Thank you. Before I get started, I would like to share my screen and show a photo that was taken the night of the homeless count, where the COG was fortunate to have Congresswoman Julia Brownley join us as a volunteer, and I need to apologize for my executive director's report that went out that I did not include the Agoura Hills contingent. Not only did we have our board member and alternate, Penny and Jeremy, but we also had, I believe it's Anne. Is that right, Penny?
No, it's Kate Anderson.
Kate.
She's on our planning.
Kate. Okay, who's a member of the Planning Commission. And we were joined by Calabasas, of course, with Alicia, Peter, and Ed, and even Alicia's father and Peter's wife and former council member was present. And we also had Ned and Kelly from Westlake Village. And it was really a great turnout. We ran into the typical technical difficulties that we do at the homeless count, but all in all, this year I thought it went very well, and appreciated Lossa's on-site staff that was very helpful in helping us get the maps presented to the various volunteers and everybody signing in and signing out. So my thanks to everyone. So with that, I will close my screen and then get back to the rest of my report. I've been in contact and I appreciate Nancy Frawley from Assemblymember Irwin's office, She and I have been in discussion with Julia Juarez from the Insurance Commissioner's Office about putting together the town hall meeting that was suggested by Penny and concurred by the rest of the governing board back in November when they made their presentation. The Commissioner's Office has offered to host the event as their Zoom account can accommodate up to 3,000 participants. I have a meeting scheduled later today, I believe, right? Or is it tomorrow, Nancy? Tomorrow? With Nancy and Julia to go over more details. So I will share those as they become available, and will obviously coordinate with the governing board to make sure that the date that we select is a date that works for everyone. So that's very encouraging. I shared some questions that I compiled regarding homeless services with Alicia that we wanted to discuss with Supervisor Horvath's staff. Sophia has been very helpful from the supervisor's office in working with us to try and get that meeting scheduled. We thought we had a meeting date, but unfortunately that doesn't work for the supervisor. And since their meetings conflict with the governing board meetings on Tuesday, that's why we need a separate meeting to go over those. The President Weintraub felt that the issues were significant enough that it warranted all of the governing board members being there if possible to discuss with the supervisor. So I'll be working on that, and we'll report back to you. I'd like to also let you know that the COGS hazard mitigation plan was submitted to Cal OES, who's responded with a request for additional information, and the consultant is addressing the request and will be resubmitting the week of this week. And the final hazard mitigation plan will then be, we'll go to Cal OES to review, and then we'll go to FEMA for their final approval. The COG Measure M funding allocations were approved by the Metro Board last month, and on February 13th, Metro issued a letter of no prejudice, which will allow Hidden Hills to immediately move forward with their phase of the Regional Smart Cities Fiber Network. And on February 14th, the COGS Highway Working Group held its quarterly meeting with Metro to discuss ongoing and projected funding for new projects. And the COGS Regional Smart Cities Fiber Project, the design engineering portion is moving forward as planned, and the consultant expects to do on-site field work within the next 30 days and to have the project complete shortly thereafter. We still anticipate the final design and bid package being completed in time for the COG to go out to bid in June of this year. And then also expect to have the project under construction in the fall of this year. So that's very exciting. And I recently discussed with the county our homeless grant initiative and the amount of funding that the COG will receive from the Local Solutions Fund for fiscal year 24-25. We'll receive $182,000. Plus, we have some money that has been unspent that will carry over. We won't lose that money, so that's good. And if projects come along that the COGS Homeless Working Group or individual cities want to support, then we can address those at the time. But it still covers enough to reserve the four beds at the People Concerned for individuals that they're working with in Malibu. And in addition, Gabriel's contract for his outreach services, and also for the $12,000 for the administrative services that I have that helps with the quarterly reports and invoicing the county. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Terry. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions. I'm going to move on to our updates from our city managers. I would like to call on Nate to provide the update for Agoura.
Good morning, and Hello, everybody on the board. Just some quick things from us. With the rains, I know we all had issues. Just a couple small slides in our area, privately owned area, so we're assisting those. One of the things the city council has asked us to look into and we're working on is a fire safe community. And we recently had some volunteers establish a fire safe council in Agoura Hills, and we are out for bids on a wildfire risk assessment. So that'll look at all of the risk around the community and the area. So I'll be glad to share that with all the city managers. We just started that process. And the final thing I had mentioned in a previous meeting, the wildlife crossing will have some major closures coming up. Those appear to be taking place in March, from what I've been told. The dates have yet to be determined because of the weather, but as soon as I get those, I'll be glad to share that with all the city managers so they can share with their staff and the councils. And so it appears that when they put the large girders down, the entire freeway will need to be shut down for portions of the nights, which will affect all of our communities. So again, I'll share that as soon as we get that information. And with that, I'll turn it over to Penny. If there's anything you want to add.
No, I appreciate your update, but I would like to say, I think anything we can do to help our residents, home harden is going to, and having a Firewise community is going to help with insurance, because I know we lost ours and we had to scramble around to find someone else. It's getting really sort of serious now with the insurance companies implementing that 0 to 5 zone. And it's something that I know is coming for all our residents, and they're going to be screaming and shouting at us because nobody wants to take out the vegetation that's right up against their homes that's been there for years. So we're going to have to gird ourselves up for that one. But it's beyond our control, and we just have to make them understand why it's happening. Thanks.
Thanks, Penny and Nate. Kindon, do you want to start with the update for Calabasas?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple things for the group. We're excited to announce the grand reopening of the community center. That will be March 14th, a special invite. Many of you may have received an invite already. And then March 16th to the general public. This is an exciting opportunity to just open the facility to the communities again. And it's almost 4 years to the date that it was closed. With COVID. So we're excited about that. And a special thank you to the city of Agoura Hills for the work that they did on securing an earmark, $1 million that did some amazing renovations and updates inside the facility. And also a special thank you to the supervisor's office. It was Sheila Kuehl's office who provided funding to redo the roof. So we're excited about that and look forward to hosting you there and sharing that facility. As for the storms, we were fortunate, I think, as compared to some other communities in Southern California with these 2 storms, have some minor damage in streams and erosion on some roads, and we're addressing that. But with that, Mayor Weintraub, anything else that you'd like to add?
I was just going to add, we had a public safety symposium last week that was really successful. We had Captain C2 and other representatives from the Lost Hills Sheriff Station talking about the current climate on public safety. But we had a few hundred residents. It was standing room only, and it was really well received. It was recorded and it's on our city website. It's definitely worthwhile to check out, and there was definitely huge interest from the broader community. So wanted to share. Now we'll call on Marcella for Hidden Hills.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to share that our fiber project is slowly moving along. We've been wrapping our arms around it, and I'm told that it is years in the making. And every time I hear about it, another year is added to how long this project has been going on. So we are excited to finally get to the point where hopefully we'll be able to make some decisions. I know that the mayor is very excited about moving this project along. So hopefully you'll be hearing some news coming from us. And Terry, I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I'm going to let you make the announcement about Metro. But we are super excited, and that's kind of my big news for today. Mayor, is there anything you'd like to report for us?
I just want to say thank you to our governing board again. Be so supportive of our fiber project, as it is a part of our COG fiber project. So I appreciate your support. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to provide the update for Malibu?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, President Weintraub, members of the board. Good morning, everybody. We're very focused right now on safety on Pacific Coast Highway. For those who aren't aware, the California Highway Patrol has begun its Malibu task force. We're very grateful for that. If you've not been driving through Malibu, I can assure you that they are very active and out and pulling people over and writing a lot of tickets, mainly for speeding. So happy to have them on board. For those who are not aware, the CHP does not provide services to incorporated cities unless it is a freeway. So those of you who have the 101 running through your communities, of course, you have the CHP providing regular patrols on that. So the city of Malibu is footing the bill on that, and we're happy to have that to augment the public safety services that we get from the sheriff's department. So between the sheriff and the CHP, we feel like we've got some pretty good enforcement going on right now on PCH. Let's see. Also on that, we are moving ahead rapidly, working on the signal synchronization project. We've had some traffic issues with that, and we're making some changes there to accommodate the daytime traffic. But that will also ultimately help with traffic flow and safety on the highway as well. And then just last week, Senator Allen introduced a bill to expand speed cameras into Pacific Coast Highway. And of course, we are joined in that effort, being supported by Assemblymember Irwin's office, and also working closely with Senator Horvath on all issues related to PCH. So we're happy to see that bill introduced. Malibu survived the storms pretty well, despite all the rain. We did have a very large boulder that came down last night and did not cause any significant damage or injuries, fortunately. So we're doing all right there. And I think that's it for me. And I'll turn it over to Councilmember Grisante, and we also have our Mayor Pro Tem Stewart here today if they would like to add anything.
I think you've done a fabulous job, Steve, and I will pass it on.
A quick comment, our Public Works Department and Caltrans has been on top of this. I came here today through Latigo Canyon, and the rocks are pushed aside, mud's everywhere, but we're keeping the roads open. And so far, I don't think there's been any private property that's had any significant damage to it. So we're faring okay, thanks to the city staff and Caltrans, and a lot of good luck. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And last, we will turn to Rob for Westlake Village.
Good morning, everybody. Again, good to see you all. Just on the storms, Westlake Village has performed well. We haven't had any issues of flooding or mudslides, fortunately, and our storm drains have performed great. So that's good news. Other thing I wanted to share was the second meeting in January. The City Council Westlake Village always has a goal-setting study session, which is always an important meeting for us. We take some time to look at the year past and what went well and where we can do better in certain areas, and then focus on the year ahead and sort of build out a work plan in terms of priorities for the council. And a number of things were discussed there, but a couple of themes that came out from that study session was public safety being the #1 priority. I assume that's the priority for every city in the COG. Specifically for Westlake Village, a few things that we're going to do is going to add a new position to the table of org, a public safety officer. I think some of the COG cities already have a position like that, so but we do not, and we'll be adding one. We're going to continue to design and build sidewalks. This is a multi-million-dollar, multi-year investment that the city is making. And the other thing sort of related to pedestrian and cyclist safety is reimagining some streets in the city. And there's one street called Lakeview Canyon Road. It's a 4-lane street, but really doesn't need to be a 4-lane street. And we're rethinking that street, reducing lanes, really separating pedestrians and cyclists and vehicles. So that's an exciting concept that we're working through. So they're just a couple of the goals. Another one that I wanted to mention is code enforcement. This is an area where Westlake Village has a pretty light approach to code enforcement, I think is fair to say. But there's a concern, an issue that we need to elevate sort of our ability to cite people when we really are not getting the compliance that we need. So we're going to be strengthening our code enforcement program this year, And then on a lighter note, we want to bring back the community trolley. I don't know how many of you have seen the community trolley in years past in Westlake Village. It's an old style, sort of San Francisco style trolley on Friday and Saturday nights during summer and winter. We haven't had it for a few years, so there's an interest in bringing it back. So there are a few of the goals that the council agreed on for the year ahead. I'd be curious to know, at a future meeting, if other cities have had a goal setting session and what your goals are for the year. I think that'd be interesting for all of us to hear. But that's all I have to report at this time. But we have Mayor Pro Tem Honig and Councilmember Pearl here too, so they may have something to add.
Thanks, Rob. A couple things, just actually one thing I just wanted to let you guys know that the water, Jeremy is in London, I guess. So I'll give the plug for him. The Water District is having International Women's Day on March 5th at their headquarters, and Elise from Agoura, Nico, Alicia, myself, Captain C2, and Supervisor Horvath are going to be speaking on the panel on that day. I know all the cities got an invitation, so if you or members of your staff can attend, that'd be really great. We also had a really fun Westlake Discover Science Day a couple weeks ago, pre-rain. It was a beautiful day. The Bug Man was there. The Dry Ice Guy was there. 200 kids were there. It was great. I got to hold some sort of large beetle. Anyway, those are the fun things that we've been doing in Westlake. So I just wanted to let you know. Thanks. Ray?
Ray, do you want to add anything? Okay.
No.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for the great city updates. Now we will turn to our public safety and legislative and agency partner updates. I will first turn to Captain C2 from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Great, thank you so much. So we had a department executive meeting last month, and it was really talking about what are our critical issues on this department, and one being obviously our hiring. And so the department kind of updated us, let us know that they hired a marketing firm to really help us out with getting interest. Apparently now in social media, we have to have 20 different introductions to people in order for people to get interest. For it used to be like 2 to 3. And we've seen the interest of applications double. So that's a good thing for us. We're headed in the right direction, but obviously we're not there yet. Another big topic was employee wellness, and just talking about, the overtime that we're doing and mandating deputies to do. Thank goodness here at Malibu Lost Hills, we are not mandating deputies to do overtime. They are signing up freely, and so far we've been fulfilling contract and our overtime and everything. So good news for that. Rains. As you all mentioned, we fared very well during our rains. We've had a few issues, like last night with the boulder in Malibu. Before any large rain event, we use the host team to really go through our community, do outreach to our homeless community, try to get them some housing and get them in safe areas. Another thing that we're doing, and this goes for rain and fire, is we're pre-staging road closure equipment. So we used our foundation to purchase some road closure equipment. Obviously, we don't have big trucks that we drive around in. And so it's important, it's actually imperative that we have this pre-staging equipment. Trying to get Public Works the key, and getting Public Works, that's too much of a delay. So we're thankful that Dr. Stepanovsky is allowing us to use one of his Connex boxes. So that's one place where we're pre-staging equipment. And what we're trying to do is look throughout Topanga. We're starting Topanga first in the Calabasas area that was not hit so hard during Woolsey, and really pre-staging that equipment, but eventually we'll get to all of our jurisdiction. So if any of you have ideas, basically it's a Connex box with pre-stage equipment is what we're trying to do. So It will be an evac warning for the unincorporated area of Topanga, that Owen Fire area, until Wednesday, 21st at 9 a.m. You mentioned, Mayor, you mentioned the Calabasas Safety Symposium. I was probably on the phone till 10 o'clock that night from residents, just so energized. That was not what I was expecting when I was going there. Because so many people were just like, I'm tired of, you know, getting hit with residential burgs. And knowing that, I really, I don't know how you felt, Mayor, but them knowing that how well we're working together, working with private security companies and, you know, some of the forward thinking that we're doing. And I haven't seen this in any other city yet, but obviously if it's in one city, it'll venture over to the other cities, is we're seeing some of the Chilean crews use drones to do surveillance before they hit a house. And so now what we're using is we're trying to purchase this right now, but we're using Emergency Operations Bureau's drone sensor. And so we can sense these drones and automatically detect them and engage whoever is flying these drones. So that's something that we're working on right now. We do have that up and running, but we are trying to get more sensors. So kudos, that was such a great event. And I know we were talking about doing a large COG event. And I really hope that we do that, just because I feel like the community is so thirsty for some of that stuff and how to get involved. Just an update on drones. Today, I meet with our department, a member from the sheriff's office that is leading the way on our drone program. And so we will find out an update today. So hopefully next COG meeting, I will be able to share that with you. For the next 4 days, Fusus will be here. Fusus is our software company that is, that's a software company for a real-time crime center. They will be in the communities onboarding today. So for the next 4 days, we will be onboarding. We already got the comments onboarded. So yay, we're really excited for that win. And other than that, I think that's about it, unless you have any questions for me.
Just thank you so much for the update. One of the great things that came out of the meeting was the program that someone discussed about how residents can proactively let the county know that they have cameras. And I think that's worthwhile for everyone to hear more about.
Absolutely. Actually, the residents were really excited about this. So right now we are onboarding businesses, religious institutions, and in schools. But residents have an opportunity to register. They can go on, I'll send all the city managers the link for residents to go on and register their cameras. And what it is if we have, let's just say we have an incident, right, that happens in Saratoga communities. Sorry, Mayor, for using Calabasas, but let's just say Saratoga community. I can basically send a circle around the Saratoga community and send a mass notification to them and say, we had a burglary on this day. This is the vehicle. Please check your cameras, and they can immediately upload their cameras to our system, and they have an opportunity to always have access, or send a notification and get access. So we will be there's going to be a lot of training with the community on this and explaining why. That's why I would love to do a large COG meeting, and I know we talked about that. To really have people there we'd had Fusus there as well, to sit there and onboard the community, but also to explain what this is and what it's not. So we're really excited, and it seems like I was shocked with the city of Calabasas the residents. Like they wanted more stuff. I thought I'd get a little pushback from some of the ideas that we were using, but they're ready for it. They want this stuff, and they seem very happy of how we're using technology to protect the community. So thank you all for being forward thinking on that and helping me out with that project.
Thank you. And I put the link to that in the chat box. Next, we will move on to LA County Fire Department with Chief Smith. Is Drew here? See, I don't see him. So we'll come back. Let's see, we will move on to Supervisor Horvath's office. I think Sophia is on the call.
Hi, thank you so much, Alicia. Hi, everybody. Sophia Sudani from Supervisor Horvath's office. Happy to be with all of you this morning. A couple updates from our office, starting with the storm updates. I know this is our second round of storms. And so I first want to give a shout out to Agoura Hills. I appreciate from the last storm that we had, we were evacuating people in the Topanga area and we were looking for shelters and they jumped in. We were able to find something in Reseda, but really appreciate the coordination. And, you know, when there's an emergency, we're all hands on deck to try to get resources and try to make sure people are safe. Also to the Malibu Lost Hills Station, Captain C2 has been amazing navigating this entire process and making sure people are safe. Another storm update, the Department of Public Works actually captured 3.6 billion gallons of water from the last storm. Not this current one we're going through, obviously, but the one previous to that. So just to give some people a good frame of mind of how much water we got during that time. I know a lot of people were also inflicted by the last storm that we had, and I know we have this current storm that we're facing. If anyone incurred damage, there's a survey that we're sending out, and I'll send that. I can put it in the chat, or I can maybe send it directly to Alicia and we can send it out. It's a damage survey that I highly encourage if anyone had property damage from this latest storm, and even this current one that we're facing as well, to put that down there. That information goes to the federal government as well to see how much damage if there's any FEMA reimbursements that's going to happen. Another resource through the storm, the LA County Assessor's Office is providing a resource for property owners who experience damage or destruction from these storms. They can apply to have the assessed value of their property reduced to reflect the damage. So this property relief program is called the Misfortune and Calamity Program. So I will also send that link around just to provide you with lots of resources ready to go. And then the last thing for the storm update that I want to say is our office, Supervisor Horvath's office, has made an emergency preparedness website that's through our site that you can go to and get more information on that front. Moving outside of the storm, I know a lot of individuals probably got maybe a brush clearance notice that haven't gotten it in the previous years. If you're a property owner that received the annual weed abatement notice, and I know there's probably several thousand that haven't gotten that in the past and now got a notice and they're confused maybe, or they're wanting to get more questions. There is a hearing today from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Agoura Hills City Hall Council Chambers. Highly encourage residents to go there as well if they have questions. And then the last thing, just it's in our back of our, it's in our community as well. The Topanga Lagoon Restoration Project is going for a draft EIR public review meeting for February 24th. So if anyone is interested in any of those details, please let me know.
Thank you, Sophia. Appreciate it. Can you send the information on the brush clearance weed abatement?
Yeah, happy to.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anyone on the line from CHP? I don't see anyone, so we will move ahead to the League of California Cities. Update from Jeff.
Good morning again. I did put together a pretty big written report. I hope you will find that helpful as well. Obviously, the big things that are going on right now, the legislature's deadline to introduce legislation this year was last Friday. So our lobbyists are going through and figuring out which of those bills might impact cities. And we're going to be holding a webinar on March the 5th at 9:30 in the morning to talk about all of those bills and to give our cities kind of a heads up on what's coming down the pike. The other big thing we've been working on is retail theft. The Assembly Select Committee on Retail Theft met in the city of West Hollywood about a week and a half ago. We did have our lobbyist who was in town for the city managers conference. She went down to testify. Also, Division President Derringer from Rolling Hills also testified there and submitted the letter that the division and Cal Cities had worked on. That's something that we're going to continue to be looking at. We have our division meeting coming up on March the 7th, where we're going to have Pedro Nava, a former assembly member, and now with the Little Hoover Commission, that has been asked by the legislature to look at the causes of retail theft. So the Little Hoover Commission had 3 public meetings on retail theft. They're very lengthy, interesting to watch. I've watched about 1.5 of those. They're about 4 or 5 hours long. And the Little Hoover Commission is sending the letter to the legislature in response, their report, in April. So in March, when we hear him in front of our division meeting, hopefully we get a little bit of a preview on some of the things that commission will be sending. The rest is kind of in my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them now.
Are there any questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff,
Thank you
for the
all.
report. Now we will move on to updates from legislative staff and agency partners. I will start with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. I wanted to say thank you to all of our cities. We had our Sacramento staff down for our retreat and our goal setting, and we had a lovely time in Agoura at the ranch in Upper Las Virgenes. It was incredible to be up there and see all of your cities with our own eyes from the helipad that lands up there. And we talked about how we can better ingrain ourselves in our community, how we can be there to support you. We went to Malibu and did a beach cleanup with Heal the Bay and had a meeting with the mayor and others regarding safety on PCH. We set sessions that we want to be in each of the communities, having Jackie there to talk to people face to face. So we'll be doing more sidewalk sessions. We'll be doing more of the scam presentations. We are talking with Calabasas, just starting talks, and with the supervisor's office about doing a large emergency fair where hopefully we will have Jen's people there, possibly doing a couple of different fire-wise safety talk, now I'm thinking a drone talk, a how to hook up your camera talk, and then also have almost a touch-a-truck event attached to the public safety fair. So it's big, but it's family-wise. So that's one thing we're looking at doing. As Jeff said, our bill package has all been implemented, and I'm going to catch you up on that as they move through the system. We'll talk about 2 or 3 every time we have a report. Right now, a big one we're working on is 1999, which is with the PUC and the flat rate tax. You'll be hearing more about that. It's something that Jackie feels very strongly about, that a small piece that affects so many people was put through. So we're trying to roll it back, put through at the end of session, last session, without a lot of knowledge about what was actually going to happen with the flat rate. So they're working on repealing that. And I'm going to let Hope talk about that a little bit as well. And then also AT&T is putting in to relinquish their carrier of last resort, which means ending landline use. And although when they've sent out to homeowners, they say you will not be left without a landline, eventually you will. And so many of the areas in our districts are your areas and areas where there is high fire danger. And we have many constituents who depend on that landline. Because as you all know, in Malibu and Calabasas and Agoura, and especially Topanga, cell service is not where it should be. We're working with carriers and providers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, trying to find places to put towers, trying to make the repeaters stronger. But right now that technology is not there for people to have to give up the security of their landlines in emergencies. So that's another thing we're working on in the district. Does anybody have any questions about anything or a bill that you want me to check out for you that you've heard about? Paul?
Paul?
Can't hear you.
On the landline problem, the big problem is that, you know, it's wonderful that the cellular companies want to help us out by putting in tons of transmitters everywhere. But if they are not fireproof, they are useless. When a fire comes, if they go down, which they will, we're all stuck. And that's our big problem.
And we're going to be talking about this on our next action item number 7. And we have a representative from AT&T and the CPUC. So we can have that lively discussion in just a bit.
Sorry.
Perfect.
No. Trust me. I know we have all a lot to say on this matter. Any other questions for Nancy? I just wanted to say thank you to
The last
Nancy.
thing, the insurance thing. We do have that meeting that Terry talked about tomorrow. We are also thinking it's going to be a back and forth is what we're hoping that the commissioner will do instead of just coming on and talking. A back and forth with Jackie and the commissioner, and I'm hoping maybe a couple of the mayors from the COG. So it'll be a live Facebook presentation that we will also be able to put up on websites, but it won't be live questions from an audience. But when people RSVP, they'll be able to send in questions. But we will use the mayors from the COG and Jackie as the mouthpieces for those questions. That way, I think there'll be better back and forth and more information instead of more stories coming out. So that's what we're looking to do as soon as possible about the fire insurance issue.
Thanks, Nancy. And I just want to say thank you to Nancy and Sophia. We've been getting a lot of resident questions about AT&T and the insurance, and we've been looping your office in just because this is outside the scope of the city council, really outside the scope of the supervisor and the assembly member, but just great to have that collaboration in working with our residents. So I want to say thank you to you and Sophia for all the help recently with constituent concerns. Are there any other agency partners who wanted to comment? I know we have Rachel Wagner's SCAG update is included in the agenda packet, but does anyone else want to comment? Stephanie?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Stephanie Mullen with LA Metro. I hope you all are doing well and staying dry. I just wanted to highlight that LA Metro ridership in 2023 rose by almost 12% from the previous year. So we're at the highest ridership since the pandemic, which is really exciting. It is the 15th month in a row of increased ridership. So I don't see that number going down. We reached 285 million boardings in 2023 and almost a 12% increase from that year before, like I mentioned. So that's exciting. We are putting together the Metro budget. So if the COG is interested in having a budget presentation, I would be happy to coordinate with you all. And again, Stephanie Mullen, LA Metro, I'm your area representative. If anyone here has any questions at any point, about the infrastructure or other topics, I'm here to support. Send me a note. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, if no further comment, we're going to move on to our action item, which is action item number 7. AT&T application. AT&T has an application with the California Public Utilities Commission. Terry, will you please present this item?
Yes. So AT&T has applied to the commission to be relieved of its obligation as carrier of last resort. And the application is currently pending before the PUC. This affects 4 of the 5 COG cities. Malibu is served by Frontier, and so they're not affected by this application. But a carrier of last resort is a telecations service provider that must provide basic telephone service, typically landline service, to any customer requesting it within a specific area. AT&T's application is to be relieved of its carrier of last resort obligation, and it covers most of their service area, including the 4 COG cities that I mentioned, excluding Malibu. And that all the COG cities are in a very high fire severity zone. And as recently, we all know, as November 2018 with the Woolsey fire, where there were mandatory evacuations that required landline communication that emergency responders used for the evacuation, and AT&T's planned replacement to traditional line is a mobility or a different voice service. And as Nancy mentioned, there's a lot of different flaws with that, and specifically the cell service that Paul mentioned and everybody mentioned. I do appreciate Sophia from Supervisor Horvath's office, who arranged a meeting on February 8th with representatives from the PUC, President Weintraub, and Agoura Hills Mayor Elise Buckley Weber, that I participated in. Hope Chrisman, who's the new PUC liaison, was very informative, and we appreciated hearing from her. We were asked if the COG is going to get involved, that we should do it early. Also, we requested that the PUC hold a public meeting in the COG area. It's kind of ironic that the only in-person meeting that they're holding with their administrative law judge is in Indio. And Indio isn't even an AT&T service area. So I'm assuming the administrative law judge lives in Palm Desert or someplace out there. That's why that was selected. But on a serious note, it could have a significant impact on the entire COG region. And I did speak with AT&T's Representative Dan Rivetto, who is participating in the meeting today and will have something to say. It's a very important issue. I can't stress that enough, as Alicia and the others have mentioned. So that concludes my staff report. There is a draft letter that for consideration by the governing board, if they would like to send the letter of opposition. I'll turn it back over to President Weintraub, and she can call on the other representatives.
Great. Thank you so much, Terry. I would like to start by welcoming Hope, the new CPUC governmental liaison representative, and ask if she has any comments. Oh, wait, I'm so sorry, Hope. Before you speak, Aniko, did you have a question before Hope spoke? Oh, okay. Hope, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me today. As Terry said, I am your new CPUC Government Affairs liaison for the California Public Utilities Commission. I work with the local electeds and the different cities throughout Southern California to help be the go-to between you and the CPUC for whatever issues you might have questions or concerns on. I heard you say that you did have a AT&T representative. So I would actually like to have the AT&T representative speak first, since this happens to be their application. They're the ones who've requested to do this. So it might make more sense to hear from them first.
Okay, well, with that, we'll turn to Dan from AT&T, if he could introduce himself and provide background and context to this. Dan
Yes,
Rivetto.
Councilmember Weintraub, thank you very much. And thank you to all the members of the COG for allowing me this opportunity to make a statement and perhaps answer some questions that you might have with regard to AT&T's Kohler application with the PUC. First, if I can leave you with just one message point today, that is that AT&T is not canceling landline service in California, and none of our California customers will lose access to voice service if the PUC approves our application. The Kohler application that AT&T submitted to the PUC, if approved, would remove AT&T's obligation under California law to provide traditional landline phone service in a portion of our service territory in California, pardon me, known as Carrier of Last Resort, or Kohler. AT&T's Kohler obligation means that we must provide traditional landline phone service to any potential customer in our service territory. However, the Kohler application no longer makes sense, given that almost everyone in our service territory can choose among several comparable or lower-priced wireline and wireless alternatives to the traditional telephone landlines for voice service. AT&T has seen a steep decline in demand for telephone services provided over our copper networks. This application seeks COLA relief for our areas in California where alternative options for voice service already exists. Our commitment is that customers currently in our California service territory will retain access to a service connection, whether from us or from another service provider. Again, no California customer will be left behind. Our copper network is incapable of meeting modern data demands, as such, it is now antiquated and vastly underutilized. We cannot continue to support two networks, and at the same time, it comes time for us to transition to a more modern network. For customers who do not have alternatives available, we will continue to provide service until such a time as an alternative phone service or provider is available. We are simply seeking an approved process to help customers transition from an antiquated copper network to more modern services. Our goal is for customers currently in our California service territory to retain access to a service connection, whether from us or another service provider. And finally, we are focused on investing in services that will meet our customers' needs today and in the future. Resources we can spend on maintaining an antiquated copper network are resources simply we can't invest in our networks to help close the digital divide. And with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
So yeah. Hi,
Wait,
Dan.
Kelly, real quick, before
Yes,
we go to
sorry,
questions.
Alicia,
Oh,
sorry,
no-
I didn't ask you, yeah.
Oh, no. I just want to make sure, did Hope want to say anything after Dan spoke, or should we
sorry,
turn?
yeah.
No. I'm ready for everyone. I just want to make sure if Hope wanted to speak first.
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay.
So you've heard from AT&T what it is they're requesting, and if approved, AT&T would no longer be required to offer landline telephone service where it's currently mandated to offer that basic service today. So an area without COLA could mean that there would be no landline telephone service serving that area. There could possibly be no landline telephone service for customers in the area. But I want to stress that this is a request that impacts landline, and that AT&T has stated that they would continue to provide service until an alternative is available. Excuse me. So alternatives could be wireless or VoIP, which is basically voice over internet, so broadband type services. Pardon me. Excuse me. So if AT&T's proposal were accepted as set forth in their application, then no COLA would be required to provide basic service in the areas requested in that application. So this does not necessarily mean that no carrier would in fact provide service. It's only that AT&T is no longer going to be required to do so. So other outcomes could be possible, such as maybe another carrier besides AT&T would volunteer to become a COLA, or perhaps the CPUC completely denies AT&T's proposal. So the CPUC's job is hard. The times have changed, the market has changed, customer behavior has changed. So the question is, how do you balance this with the real needs of the few people that rely on the service? There could be some middle ground there, but we don't really know what that is until we take a peek at what that could be through reply comments. So at this time, the CPUC is asking for public comments on AT&T's proposal. As Terry said, unfortunately, the only in-person one is currently going to be in Indio, but we do have a virtual public participation hearing, which will be March 19th. That'll be at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. So anybody in the state can attend that and give public comment. But public comments can also be accepted anytime during the proceeding via our docket card, which is on our website, through the public advisor's office. You could subscribe to become a party to the proceeding if you choose to be more deeply involved. And you can also subscribe to the proceeding just to keep updated on what's happening. So at this time, that's where the CPUC stands. We're trying to receive public comment so we can understand the needs of the community.
This is Dan Rivetto. I just first very much would like to thank Ms. Chrisman for her comments. And if I could make just one more statement to underscore and to help provide some reassurance about AT&T not leaving anyone behind. In our 21 state footprint, California is the only state that has yet to provide COLA relief in those 21 states. Of those 20 states that have provided AT&T with COLA relief, none of our customers who are without an alternative have been left behind. And an example of that illustrates this point well and our commitment to keeping people connected is Oklahoma, where 10 years ago, we received COLA relief. And there are still some customers 10 years later that do not have an alternative, and they continue to receive AT&T's copper landline services. So there's plenty of examples of where AT&T continues to maintain our commitment to keeping people connected. I just wanted to hopefully that could provide some reassurance about some of the misinformation that's been swirling about this application, about leaving anyone behind. AT&T is in the business of connecting people. We simply want to transition folks to the more modern fiber-based broadband and wireless network that is so much more in demand of our customers in the state of California today.
Thank you, Dan. I'm going to turn to Kelly, and then we'll give each governing board member an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, hi. A few comments after hearing Dan's prepared statement. I am the mayor pro tem of Westlake Village, and I've lived in Westlake Village for 23 years. During that time, AT&T has shown virtually no interest in improving the cell service in our area. Mine, as I sit here today at my house, it's sporadic at best. I can move from my kitchen to my living room and not be able to talk on my cell phone up here. So this would not be as concerning to me and our residents as it would be if we actually had adequate cell service in our COG area, not just in my city, but in general, because our 5 cities share, well, the 4, if you're not talking about Malibu, share a same terrain, same issues. You know, the AT&T service in our city is horrible. And this you know, is of great concern because many of our elderly residents retain their landlines. I have a landline because I can't rely on my cell phone at my house. And, you know, when the PUC says that the relief will no longer require AT&T or any carrier really to, you know, provide, you know, mandated landline service, that to me means they're not going to do it because it's not profitable. I mean, Dan just spent many minutes telling us that it isn't profitable and it's antiquated. So I don't really understand how this issue is going to be resolved in an area in which cell service is abysmal. So maybe Dan or Hope could address that. Thank you.
And I think that would be a good question for Dan.
Thank you for that, Madam Mayor. The challenge, as you very accurately stated, for wireless communications in the COG area in general is your topography. And it's very difficult for us to propagate signals in valleys and hilly terrain. Having said that, we also have to operate within the ordinances that are that have been passed by councils in that particular area. It makes it somewhat difficult to balance for city councils to balance the needs of the demand of the majority of the people whom you serve, and sometimes the vocal minority of the people who would rather not see our facilities in their neighborhoods or on their ridgelines. So that has always been a very difficult challenge, not only for AT&T, but I think you'll find for most wireless carriers as well. Again, I'd like to come back to the point I made at the beginning, that if an alternative provider is not available, we'll continue to maintain that landline. Perhaps your city and AT&T would be happy to sit down with you to take a look at where we're located in your area and find common ground or some possible partnership where we can locate our facilities to better keep your community connected.
Dan, this is Alicia Weintraub from Calabasas. I just want to let you know that we did exactly what you mentioned. Many years ago, we updated our ordinance, which had been more restrictive, to make it very open for providers to come into our community. We've sat down with you and we've gotten nowhere. Our staff has provided maps. The door is wide open for AT&T to come into the city of Calabasas, and nothing has happened. Our residents have such subpar wireless service that there is no confidence in AT&T for people who rely on their landlines. But we've done everything that AT&T has asked us to do, and we've seen absolutely no improvement to service.
Yeah, thank you for that. Let me provide some context for people who live outside the city of Calabasas, because I was in those council meetings more than a decade ago when the city passed the most onerous wireless ordinance in the state.
Right, but we fixed
wireless
it.
carriers,
But we fixed
like
it.
myself, warned the city of this. And over those 10 years, not one wireless application was filed with your city. And that really put Calabasas behind.
Right, but that's
Our
what I'm
resources
saying.
are finite. So when we try to continue to connect California residents, we're going to go in places that will provide us an opportunity to build our network. Those funding cycles sometimes take 2 to 3 years.
But we're now we're many years. That onerous ordinance is long gone. That's like the old Calabasas. Council members are gone. Those residents are gone. That was pre-Woolsey. We've done everything possible to make all the changes necessary. The funding cycles have come and gone. We've had meetings and meetings. We've issued RFPs. We've done everything possible to make it inviting for wireless providers. So we're not to blame anymore. We were before, and they took the responsibility and we made the changes. So if there's something more that our cities need to do, please let us know. You can work with the city managers, because as council, we've done everything that we've been told to do.
And if I can just jump in there really quickly, Dan, you know that we've been working with the supervisor's office and the senator's office as a working group. We have met with you as well about this issue in the cities and the bad cell service. We have sent the report from Calabasas and another report from Topanga with different areas and possible locations for cell towers. We have the Sacramento people meet with AT&T and Verizon on the same issue. So while it does take a while now that there are new ordinances, there has been a lot of efforts on every level to get the cell service better in these areas.
Ms. Frawley, thank you for that. Yes, I have been an active participant in those meetings with the 3rd Supervisorial District. I believe Ms. Sudani is on today's call. They provided us with 5, the Topanga Canyon Town Council, in that meeting, provided us with 5 sites that they looked into, that they asked us to consider for cell towers. We carefully examined all 5 and came back with one site that we thought would be a wonderful alternative to a site that we already have pending with the County of Los Angeles for several months that is still waiting to get movement. We suggested this particular alternative site, and the supervisor's deputies who handles regional planning was going to get back to us with regard to whether or not LA RICS would be able to allow us to co-locate in that particular place. So we continue to work with you in this, but I'll tell you, it's been my experience in working with a lot of the local governments that when we place our applications in place, sometimes we get it through, like in the County of Los Angeles, we'll invest 3 to 4 years in designing, in planning, and in engineering a prospective cell tower. We work with the landlord, in this case, an HOA and the town council. We get approvals from them, goes to the Regional Planning Commission. It gets approvals, then it gets appealed to the Board of Supervisors. And that's where the vocal minority comes down and applies political pressure. Now, we want to keep, and that was a ground up AT&T responded to the will and the request of the people. And the bottom line was it was denied. So we have elected officials who sometimes tell us that we want greater connectivity. We want greater connectivity. But the rules that are on the books limit where we can go. And those limitations are very difficult. They require us to negotiate with homeowners associations or places outside of the public right-of-way. And I sat down with the 3rd District, and I think you were invited to that meeting, Ms. Frawley, but I don't think neither you nor another state representative were able to attend. And neither were you able to attend the subsequent meeting that we had with the 3rd District. But AT&T is being responsive as best we are able, giving our finite resources to help continue to connect our customers to our network.
Thanks, Dan. I think you're talking about Topanga, and this COG doesn't deal with that area. So maybe if we go back to the work that you tried to do with Calabasas and all
Okay. Well, and Nancy, I'm sorry, but you were the one who brought up Topanga Canyon, and that meeting was about the Malibu, the Santa Monica Mountains area. That's the meeting that you referenced. So my apologies. If you'd like to go back to Calabasas, I can talk about Calabasas.
You know what? I actually see Ray Pearl's hand. I want to make sure that all the governing board members and alternates have time to ask questions.
So Alicia, I don't actually have a question. I want to just chime in with what our Mayor Pro Tem Kelly Honig said, and I'm listening to Nancy representing the Assembly Member's Office, Sophia, the Supervisorial Office, hearing what's going on in Calabasas. I am not moved 1 centimeter by AT&T. I don't appreciate coming to a setting like this where I have a corporate government affairs person lecturing us. The bottom line for me is we can all acknowledge that local government is imperfect. We are too slow. We are very process oriented, and there's whole reasons why that exists. What we are here to talk about is the safety and security of our residents. And for me, after sitting through this presentation, I couldn't be more sure on the need for the PUC to ensure that AT&T keeps up their end of the deal, their end of the bargain. And yes, local government needs to do more. I know in my tenure on our city council, there hasn't been a cell phone tower that's come before us that I have voted against or that the city council has rejected. We work very, very hard to improve the service in our community. And the bottom line is we aren't there yet. And I know that Westlake Village is not that different from the other cities in our COG. I think it is incredibly important that we maintain as a COG our role in this process as it goes before the PUC. And I think that the letter that's in there, Alicia, that you have written with your concerns and where the COG is coming from is spot on, and that we need to stand up for our residents as this moves forward. I'm not moved an inch by AT&T.
Thank you, Ray. Aniko?
Hi, I just want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me? I was told to lean in. Okay, so a couple things. The city of Hidden Hills has already sent in an opposition comment, and we already have a letter that we wrote, and Terry has a copy of it, so all the COG cities are welcome to review it, use it as a template, and we're sending that opposition letter to our supervisor, our assembly member, our senator, Jeff at the league, and maybe I'm forgetting a couple other people, but we are opposing the loss of landlines for obvious reasons, right? We're talking about balancing here. I mean, how many lives are we balancing here? You know, we experienced Woolsey. We were evacuated. We lived in real emergencies where people's lives were in danger. So when I hear balancing, I mean, I always think about whose life are we balancing here and who's really benefiting from this decision? Because I don't think our constituents would at all. Now, let's get into action, I think. I love the letter. Thank you so much, President Weintraub, to bringing this forward and putting this on our agenda. And I would really like to see if the governing board agrees that maybe Terry could reach out to other COGs to get them on board opposing this, and also asking them to reach out to their respective cities and ask them to engage their representatives, their assembly members, their senators. And, you know, I kind of see this also as a big issue for the league. I would love the league to take a strong position opposing this. And, you know, it's in the best interest of the entire state. And I also feel that, you know, we should fight this together. We can look at the data in terms of benefit to the state. And I think it would be obvious that keeping this service ongoing would be beneficial. And if all fails, maybe the second thing that could happen or would happen maybe is to carve out our region, because we just have a very unique topography. We're high fire zone. We live through real emergencies. This is not an imagined thing that we're worried about. We live through Woolsey, and we need to protect the people we are elected to protect. Thank you.
Thank you, Aniko. Doug?
Yeah, I just want to speak as an alternate here very quickly. From Malibu's perspective, yes, AT&T doesn't serve us, but if AT&T gets this, you can imagine Frontier is going to be right behind them. So we're in this with you, whether it's AT&T service or Frontier. I couldn't agree more about the criticality of having a landline usage available to all the property owners and residents. And having gone through Woolsey, the first thing that goes out is cell service, phone service. It's amazing how quickly we lose our utilities as soon as an emergency comes along. And it gets back to, I'll point to the PUC, the criticality of a system is also defined by its single points of failure. You know, you look at a business network, for example, and I know from my own experience in IT, first thing you do is say, what are we depending on? And sometimes it's as little as a finger width fiber optic network that goes for miles and can be hit by a car and it's gone. So it isn't enough to say there's a substitute. Just because it worked on Monday doesn't mean it's going to work on Wednesday. And we need to have the redundancy and this fortification, hardening that needs to be in place before we say, oh, landlines aren't needed. But we're a long way away from that. And it's got to be a package of solutions with the vendors like AT&T, Spectrum, Frontier, whoever else, and make sure that if and when that day comes, landlines leave us, there's a hardened system in place that replicates what used to be in place with AT&T and Frontier when those things worked no matter what. Power outages, rainstorms, you can't depend on their cell system to be an alternative. So that's my comments. Paul, I don't mean to steal your thunder.
Thank you so much, Doug, and for all the comments from the governing board. Are there any other further questions or comments?
I just wanted to make a comment directed to Ms. Chrisman. I hope you're listening. Our area is unique. The topography is unique. There are many, many, many issues about this proposal by AT&T that does not work for our area. And, you know, I get that we can zoom in to the meeting that is in Indio, but it would be really great if someone paid attention to what is happening out here. There's a lot of people out here, as Mayor Gold said, who were in real danger 5 years ago. That is our job, to protect those people. So I appreciate everyone's comments, and I hope that this, you know, makes an impact on you, because it certainly has a huge impact on us.
If I may, I just would like to say that this is one thing you'll hear from me as you get to know me. I'll say this over and over. Our commissioners only know what they know. So if you aren't providing comments, if you aren't getting your constituents to share their concerns, then those voices aren't being heard and our commissioners don't understand those opinions. So I always urge you to be involved. Provide public comments, write letters. They can always be submitted through me and I can get them to the staff. I've heard lots of people state that one in-person meeting in Southern California is not enough. We have
I think Hope.
Northern California.
Oh, Hope, I think there's some sound issue on your end.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, now you're back.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
There have been concerns about the fact that we don't have more than one in-person public participation hearing in Southern California, and that has been shared with the ALJ in the proceeding. Whether or not another one is added, I couldn't tell you at this time, but we have heard that concern and we will be addressing it. So as I said, public comment is definitely necessary. Please become involved.
Thank you so much, Hope. And then I'll go back to Paul and then Aniko.
I just want to take a moment to say that I appreciate your words, Doug, and that was very helpful. But the other concern that this brings to mind is that we're currently in the midst of a huge push to eliminate natural gas and put everybody on electrical. Well, when electrical fails, as it will, if we in a fire or when, God forbid, an electromagnetic pulse event, a gas line would still be working. And unfortunately, after 45 years in Malibu, I have kind of a prepper mentality. And it's all about wanting to have several solutions backed up behind the solution I'm using right now. And that is what keeps us going when we are not as, sometimes we feel like we're living in the frontier. And so we need to be prepared for anything. And I don't think that getting rid of natural gas, getting rid of landlines are things that are going to help us when that emergency comes. And maybe it won't happen during my lifetime, but I still would like it here for my grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Aniko?
Thank you. I just want to say that our city will be engaging our constituents. It's in the works, and we'll be sending them the link to make public comment online about this issue. And I urge you all to do the same in your cities. Thank you.
Kindon?
President Weintraub, just a question for Hope, if I can, and this follows up on Mayor Gold's comment just now. So Hope, question for you. You mentioned that the PUC only knows what they know, and they are anticipating comments and feedback from people throughout the state. What have you found in your experience? Is it more impactful that cities are sending letters, which I think we'll all be doing, or is it more impactful that the PUC hears from thousands of residents and are bogged down by those individual opposition letters?
Both. I think it's critical to hear from every angle, whether it be the mass of constituents, group letters like you guys are intending to send, every way that you can hear. And I'm not just talking about the negatives and those who are opposed. And they need to hear both sides. If somebody is for this, they need to hear that as well.
Great, thank you. And also it just shows right now how important it is that people do have these landlines, because we received an email that the high school their internet and phones are down right now. So there's no way for people at our largest public high school to get in touch in the event of an emergency right now. So something really concerning. So I really appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate Dan being on and hearing from us, and Hope. Oh, I see Penny has her hand up. I apologize.
Hi, yes, thank you. I would just like to say that I support everything all my fellow COG members have said. I feel the same way you do. I still have a landline, and it's just as a backup in case. And I think that's so important for everybody in our area. So I have to just say, when we get to the vote, because I'm restricted, our council hasn't discussed it yet. I am sure our council is going to be 100% against losing our landlines, but I'm going to have to, when we come to the vote for sending the letter now, I would have to abstain, and I would just request that if we could just wait until we've had our next council meeting so that I can bring this forward. I would appreciate that.
And I guess that was a question I had for you and Nate. I was thinking that we could vote on this and then hold off on sending it until after you guys met, but that we could do
I would really appreciate that, because I feel
but
really strongly.
we could vote today. We could vote today.
Yes,
And then the letter wouldn't go out until you have the support of your council, but that way we don't have to be delayed, just in case the timing, we can get the letter out as quickly as possible.
That would be great. Thank you. I'd really appreciate that.
Okay, Terry, does that work?
That works. So what I could do is just we'll make the motion subject to Agoura Hills getting on board, and then we can send the letter the next day. And I also plan to just kind of gauging the discussion as it's gone along, even before this meeting. I've already got it on my calendar to participate in the March 19th meeting to carry the board's opposition in person, or at least virtually, at that meeting.
Thank you, Terry. Aniko?
I just have a question. My understanding, what Penny said, was that we would just not put, I mean, in the unlikely scenario that vote doesn't happen at their meeting, can we still send the letter if we voted in, just not include Agoura Hills on the letter?
Penny's support could be contingent on her council.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a problem, Nico. I just have to go through the protocol.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks.
Can I make the motion then?
Sure. Is there a second? Kelly, for the second. Terry, you want to call roll call?
Aniko Gold,
Aye.
Paul Grisanti,
Aye.
Kelly Honig,
Aye.
Penny Sylvester,
Aye.
and President Weintraub.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion carries 5, is unanimous, subject to Agoura Hills approval at the February 28th meeting, and then the letter would go out on March 1st, correct?
Correct.
February 29th.
Is there?
I think it
It's
is.
leap year.
Leap year.
Oh, that's right, this leap year. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you for that action item. We're going to move on to general comments and requests for future agenda items. Are there any comments or requests for future agenda items? Okay. Future meeting dates. The next TAC meeting will be March 6th and the governing board meeting will be March 19th. If there is no further business or questions, we will adjourn. Thank you everyone so much for participating.